every year's most overrated Ballon d'Or placement since 2004, as judged per this criteria on a season-by-season basis. Let's roll on. 2004, Theodore Zagorakis, 5th. As I've stated many times before, I don't roll with the judgment of a player's form over a year drastically changing due to his exploits in a tournament that lasted a mere few weeks. So yes, while Zagorakis was possibly the best player in that Greece team that snatched Euro 2004, with his performance in the final being as good as any midfielder was capable in the world at the time, when you consider that he had another trophyless year with Athens and, to a much lesser extent, the fact that he even played for a club like Athens, way overplayed, sorry. 2005, Jamie Carragher, 19th. This walking piece of unflushable turd stain made the Ballon d'Or rankings. 2006, Franck Ribéry, 13th. And it's not the last time you'll see him on here. Once again, this is another one of those seasons by a player that was overvalued in the end due to a summer tournament. But this time he didn't even win it. Also far from being the best player on his own team. And had a good, albeit far from amazing and, again, trophyless season with Marseille too. Don't mean to dunk on him, that's for later. But these are just facts, man. 2007, Steven Gerrard, 13th. If this was 2005, 10th would be a little low. If it was 2006, 10th would be super low. But 2007, I'd say Stevie was at the very least quite fortunate to finish above the likes of Carlos Tevez, who basically kept West Ham up on his own. Iker Casillas, who was one of the undoubted MVPs of Madrid's recovery that season. As well as Casillas' teammate David Beckham, who... just watch tomorrow's video. Look, I understand Paul making it to the UCL final does carry a lot of weight, but again, unlike a couple of years earlier where it was basically all him, this was very much a collective effort where, I'd argue, Kite and Crouch, especially Kite, would have been more important than Stevie that year. 2008, Sergio Aguero, 14th. Right, okay. Why? Man finished above UCL finalists Drogba and Lampard, as well as UCL and EPL winner Edwin van der Sar, who was also instrumental in Holland's strong showing at the Euros that year. And again, why? Maybe because he was carrying Atleti in La Liga, scoring 19 goals, which is super impressive for a team who finished 4th. Just not as impressive as Daniel Giza, who scored 27 goals for a team who finished 7th. And where was he in the rankings? Nowhere to be seen. 2009, Ryan Giggs, 14th. Spoke about him getting the PFA Player of the Year that year too, and pretty much everything I said about that award applies to this award. Almost as if none of these awards are really reflective of the truth. What a thought. Either way, here's what I said. Alright, first of all, let's get something clear. Ryan Giggs getting stick by the United fans for some of his performances around this time was certainly uncalled for. But was that as uncalled for as giving him the PFA Player of the Year in 2008-2009? Bro, that's a tough call. Cause I'm sorry man, but him winning the award that year was just players who were in the league at the time, don't forget it's they who vote for that, just fanboying over someone they grew up watching who was still doing it in his mid-30s. And you know what? You can't take away how good he was doing given his age at the time. But this is the thing, this wasn't PFA Old Player of the Year, it ain't relative to age. And when it comes to people who he beat out that year, never mind names like Steven Gerrard, but you know what, I'm gonna go as far as to say that Ryan Giggs wasn't even the top 4 players in his own team that year. And yes, it's pretty easy to just point to Rooney and Ronaldo, so I will, Rooney and Ronaldo. But also, people forget, but Manchester United's backline that season was elite, with Edwin van der Sar now more familiar with his Champions League winning backline than ever, bar that injury-laden right back slot. He used arguably his biggest strength in organising his defence to its best use, resulting in United conceding the least amount of goals in both the Premier League and Champions League. And this is what I mean. Real talk, you can pick any of the regular 3 from the back, as well as Van der Sar, as well as Rooney and Ronaldo, over Giggs for that year. Baffling that. 2010, Andres Iniesta, 2nd. And here we go again. So to my recollection, Andres Iniesta has made the Ballon d'Or podium on 2 different occasions, and well, this is a testament to how inaccurate these awards are in my opinion, cause neither of those 2 seasons were particularly strong for his standards. Like bro, this is arguably the best ball playing midfielder of his generation. He's done better multiple times. So why did he make it on those particular seasons? Cause he won the World Cup and the Euros. Come on, man. Isn't this supposed to be judged over almost a year? Like, please don't get me wrong. Winning the World Cup while scoring the winning goal in extra time against a watertight kung fu kicking defense isn't a joke. But for me, it can only carry so much weight. And for me, in this instance, it carried a little too much. 2011. Wayne Rooney, 5th. Looks like Waza also suffered with the Iniesta paradox of achieving his highest placement in one of the seasons he least deserved it. Cause bro, if it was the campaign before where he played as the focal point of United for the first time and smashed it first try, or the season following this where he was one of the only regular performers at a United side who struggled in Europe and got Aguero in the league, fair play. But sandwiched in between them was 10-11, a season where Wayne's patience with United waned as his wants and wishes as well as worries and warnings about wins, wages and a wavering workforce was waved away by the whiskey-loving wise man he works for, leading him to actually hand in a transfer request. And because of all this mess, Waza missed a number of games in autumn, and to be honest, even when he came back he continued having purple patches, and despite finishing the European campaign strong, given how badly his side were embarrassed by Barca in the final, clearly not strong enough. 2012. Andres Iniesta, 3rd. As I alluded to already, much like 2010, this wasn't Andres Iniesta's strongest year either, but of course, he makes it on here once again due to the summer tournament. But listen, credit where credit's due. Iniesta was magical in Euro 2012. Out of the 3 competitions Spain won back-to-back, this was undoubtedly his strongest. But if I'm not mistaken, he also won UCL Player of the Year that year too. As in this year. This shit, no. 2013. Franck Ribéry, 3rd. He is back and now more insufferable than ever. So this is the season by the player which Messi fans use to discredit one of CR7's Ballon d'Ors. And those of you who do that, I have one question. Why not Thomas Müller? He was the actual best player in that team, so why not him? I'm actually curious. Go on, tell me your answer. Let me know why not while I wait for your on-second thought. Shut up, let me tell you why not. It's because Ribéry was the guy that was picked by famous people that you know, so you took that opinion, hung on to it and flung it towards Ronaldo. Well done. Now here's the reality of the situation. Franck Ribéry in 12-13 underperformed in most of the big Champions League ties, including the first semi-final against Barca as well as the final against Dortmund, missed a couple of key games in Bayern's route to the domestic cup, and while he was brilliant in the Bundesliga, was he really more impressive than someone like Stefan Kiepling, who won the Golden Boot despite playing for a team who totaled over 30 goals less than Bayern Munich? Of course he wasn't. And since he wasn't, as I've said many times, when you have all those factors working against you, you can only combat it with insane statistics a la Messi 2012. And while 11 goals and 23 assists is admittedly really good and was probably the Messi 2012 equivalent of Franck Ribéry's career, in real time, Messi 2012, it sure was f***ing not. Do your research, kids. 2014. James Rodriguez, 8th. Yup, same old shit. He won the Golden Boot in the World Cup. To be fair, probably would have won the Golden Ball too had Colombia made it a bit further. And both those accolades, yeah, probably deserved. But again, the World Cup is a month long. And James, despite a decent single season with Monaco, ranked above Yaya Toure in the best campaign of his career, where he looked as unstoppable as a midfielder has ever looked in the Premier League. As well as, Jesus, Angel Di Maria. La Decima Angel Di Maria. This must have been some sort of an inside joke, I'm convinced of it. 2015. James Rodriguez, 19th. I promise you, I don't hate the guy, but facts are he was never as good as they made him out to be. Though having said that, he was certainly more than a mere summer tournament merchant in 2015, because individually James had a very good first season at Real. His stats will tell you just that. But that doesn't change the fact that not only was he pretty easily contained against most of the big opposition, his integration completely changed Madrid, who went from doing the cup double as counter-attacking demons the previous year, to finishing the season with nothing that year. 2016. Kevin De Bruyne, 20th. Not only did he go trophyless as far as the big 3, he also missed a good portion of the second half of the season through injury. Now don't get me wrong, he had a great start to his Premier League career with 10 goal contribution his first 10 games. But again, to what extent was this a net positive for his team? Well, given that they lost over 30% of those games, conceding 4 goals apiece into, I'd say a small one. 2017. Isco, 12th. Yeah, sorry bro. Isco's my guy and all that, but there's no way he deserved to be above names like Ballon, Hazard or even Marcelo that year. He was no doubt brilliant and was somewhat of a revelation for Zizou, who moved from a full 3-3 to playing a diamond in midfield, which was very much made possible by Isco's great form. But again, never mind the best, he probably wasn't even in the top 3 or 4 players in his own team. Deserves to be on here, but below the top 16. 2018, Luka Modric, winner. Not this again. So not only have I spoken about this too many times, I've already whined about speaking about this too many times, and have talked about it more times since I've made a video where I whined about speaking about this too many times. So you know what, I'll keep this super brief. So CR7 that season pulled a heavily struggling Real Madrid side out of the dumps with one of the best runs of his career in early 2018, continued that run in the UCL knockouts by throwing both PSG and Juventus out mostly on his own, and then went to the World Cup and finished joint second top scorer despite playing for a mediocre at best Portugal side who were knocked out in the second round. Meanwhile, his Real teammate Luka Modric, who no doubt was the best player at that World Cup, and while that no doubt does matter, as it is the case with most of these summer tournaments, here this too mattered a little too much. 2019, Mohamed Salah 5th. Pretty much solely because he was ranked above Mbappe as well as his pool teammate Alisson. Kylian Mbappe that season, even as young as 19 years old, stepped up and took the mantra of being the main man at PSG, and in turn cemented his place amongst the world's best. Alisson came into Liverpool and acted as the final step in taking them to the elite level. Remember Karius? Probably better than he remembers the UCL final. Please don't cancel me, I ain't even been booked yet. And well, in comparison to those guys, not Karius, Salah in 2019 simply fell short. Still world class of course, let's make that clear. 2021, Lionel Messi, winner. Ugh. Another entry I've spoken about countless times before, but you know what, unlike 2018, I want to speak more on this because the more I look back, the dumber it gets. Like brother, Robert Lewandowski in the league that season scored 41 goals in 29 games. When these guys were putting up these crazy numbers, it was basically universally accepted that the Ballon d'Or race was only between them. But when Lewandowski achieved similar numbers, he was shamelessly overlooked. Make that make sense. And for those downplaying this tally because it was Bundesliga, well, it's actually the greatest total in the history of Bundesliga, meaning no other player in the history of Bundesliga has ever done it. So surely it couldn't have been that easy. Also, he did finish the Euros that year as joint third highest scorer while playing for Poland. Not sure how much that matters, but it's still something. And as for Messi, well, unlike a certain other season where he was again given the award unfairly, which may or may not pop up later, the 2021 season was a very good one. After all, he grabbed both the Pichichi as well as the Copa del Rey. And yes, considering they both played different roles for different teams, it'd be stupid to directly compare their stats. It's better to view it more of who had the better balance of achievements and individual performances in a given period of time. And when you do all that, no one outside of a die-hard Messi fanboy slash CR7 hater can really tell you that Messi was better than Lewandowski that year. And sorry, but it's also worth to note that as good as he was, Messi that season was almost exclusively good when he was up against weaker opposition. Cause on the reverse end of the spectrum, he ghosted both home and away ties against both Madrid sides who finished above him in the league, and while he did do well against a far from fully filled Juve bereft of their favourite forward for flu-infested factors in the first leg, when they came out with all the ammo in the second, his influence severely diminished. And also, oh boy. Yeah, let's talk about this. Now, if you've even heard me mention Messi's 2021 Copa America tournament before, you'd know how much of a big fan I am. It's the greatest individual tournament of his entire career. But genuinely, the only superior against inferior argument can somewhat be applied to this tournament too. Cause as insanely good as Messi was that summer, not only did 2/3 of his goal contributions come against Bolivia and Ecuador, but the one time Argentina faced a team as good or better than them, i.e. Brazil in the final, Messi was nowhere to be seen. And again man, please don't mistake this as me saying Messi was terrible in 2021 or anything, but in the balance of things, even thinking about justifying giving him the Ballon d'Or over Lewandowski that year, well, these man them weren't wrong. 2022, Sadio Mane, second. And we're back to the international tournament anti-tax. Another top-class player with a podium finish in a season that was far from his strongest due to triumph in an international tournament. Hope you're still with me. And this is the kind of logic that I'll never understand. Cause sorry, but Sadio Mane wasn't even the best player in his own team that season. It was this guy. Yet, he apparently clears Salah because his team won a penalty shootout against him. Once again, I swear this is supposed to be judged over a year. And disclaimer, Mane was one of my favourite players in the Premier League when he was here, and as I said, he's had significantly better seasons where he perhaps deserved higher finishes than he was given, but in 21-22, for me he was fortunate to make it anywhere near second. 2023, Lionel Messi, winner. Oh good lord. He disappeared in every big game for his club, was consequently booed by the fan base of that club, spent every non-goal/assist second looking like he'd rather be anywhere but that club, and yet, a World Cup win on the back of some dodgy officiating and questionable decisions later, he was now the greatest thing since sliced dodgy officiating and questionable decisions. So, what do you want from me? 2024, Lamine Yamal, 8th. So this is actually a combination of two things we've already seen, the summer tournament anti-tax and the oh my god he is so young, give him a knighthood anti-tax. Cause yes, Lamine Yamal certainly burst onto the scene at the Euros, was certainly exciting at the Euros, was certainly young at the Euros, and he did also have a very good individual season at Barcelona where he showed glimpses of his undeniable brilliance which would only get better in the upcoming year and I'm sure beyond. But objectively speaking, does any of that mean he was the 8th best player in the world ahead of the likes of Toni Kroos and Harry Kane? You know the answer. It's the right answer. 2025, Desiree Doué. Just watch. And that is that. Agree or disagree beats indifference. Once again, don't forget to like, comment and share. And of course, subscribe. Till next time, you keep rolling.